La 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 la. Screen peeking. Bop bop bop.
Hey everybody, welcome to Screen Peeking, a weekly podcast where Ziggy and I get together to talk about video games and everything video game related. This week is episode 24. We did it. Made it to 24. You know, that's the best
You
number
did it.
there is.
It's almost 25.
yes, but that one's not as great. And
No.
today we're going to be talking about quite a few things as usual. We're giving our Cyber Shadow impressions because that was our Game Club game from last week. We will be talking about the MetaHuman thing that's going on with Epic, and
Whatever it is.
Ziggy will give us a bunch of information on that, I'm sure, later on. We're going to touch on Pokemon Day, and we're also going to get, of course, the topic of this show, Ziggy's Little Nightmares 2 review. So I'm very excited about that. Ziggy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I had a bit of a weird day yesterday. I completely lost access to my Spotify account, so I had to just kind of luckily I was able to cancel my premium with that because it was through a family account and stuff. But yeah, that was a little annoying, but other than that, things have been going pretty good. I
Are
have
you still
a new
alive?
one now. I know, right? That was legitimately so distressing, logging and not being able to listen to my music for a while, because when you know that you can't, it's all you want. It's the only thing you want in the world. But yeah, now Spotify doesn't know anything about my music taste, so I've been just listening to a lot of music that I know that I like to sort of train it into understanding me. Yeah, I've been weirdly self-aware too. I often listen to a fair bit of game soundtrack, but I've been trying not to because I don't want Spotify just only recommending me game soundtracks. I've been trying to listen to as much as I can. But yeah, it's been a little weird, but overall not that bad. How have you been? How have things been going?
Not too bad. Just little ups and little downs, but always looking forward to recording this podcast with you. So it's good. You talking about music made me remember. I have to say, and this is really funny to me, but both music and artistically, with drawing, because artistically could mean so many things. You are completely making me more aware of vaporwave as a thing. And ever since we've been talking for the last few months and stuff, but I've always enjoyed it and I've always liked it, but I think I didn't realize how much of its own genre or subgenre it is. And I didn't realize how much I liked it until more recently. So I've just been listening to tons of vaporwave kind of music.
That's
and
awesome.
A lot of stuff like that lately. And anyways, you were talking about music made me think about that. That's what I've been listening to at work all the time. It's good.
Glad to hear it. I love to hear that. That's unsurprising, but yeah, there definitely is a lot out there.
Yeah. So
jump into it though.
Totally. What have you been playing this last week? What have you been up to?
Been playing, and definitely not as much as last week, but so obviously Little Nightmares 2, I'll get into that. I just beat that last night. It was one of those things where I knew I was at the end. I just kept going until 3 a.m. until it's finally done. Okay, holy shit,
Yeah.
I'm going to bed, and had trouble falling asleep because Jesus, that is a scary game. And then I kind of blasted into a couple other games. One, Umurangi Generation, is one that I was turned on to because there's a YouTuber I really like, Thor High Heels, and he made the soundtrack for it. And the soundtrack's really neat. It samples a bunch of PS1 games. But the game is pretty cool. It's a sort of cyberpunk-esque. I don't really know how to describe the style of it, but it's definitely really stylish. Cyberpunk isn't the word. It's sort of a mix between traditional cyberpunk and Jet Set Radio almost. It definitely has a bit of that edgy sort of punk flair to it that I like. But yeah, it's basically just this really sort of cool, detailed, retro, low poly world, and you just have a camera and you take pictures of stuff with a cool little funky soundtrack in the background. It has missions where you can it'll ask you see if you can get a shot with 3 people in it, or 7 birds, or with this much color or whatever, and so you can do that. But overall, you're just kind of taking pictures of things you think look cool. And it is chill. It's fun to kind of go through.
The cyberpunk snap.
And exactly, yeah. And then I've also, this game's kind of a meme at this point, but Friday Night Funkin' I've definitely gotten into over the last week, which I have been really, really enjoying. But I don't know, it just taps into that sort of new, it is a Newgrounds game, but I feel like it's been a while since I've played a game that's this Newgroundsy, and it's sort of like stupid edginess in some ways. Like it's so juvenile, like with some of the humor and stuff, but it's just fun, and like the art is really nice. The music I've been listening to a lot. But yeah, and I really like the way that content, like every few weeks or so, like a new sort of like week or chapter will come out, and it's always kind of a fun little community event because there's always something interesting about it or something to discover, and the community goes wild on it, starts modding it, putting in their own songs. But yeah, that's really cool. What about you?
Yeah, for myself, I've just been playing some Sea of Thieves with some guys every now and then. That's
Heck
just
yeah.
been just to kill some time for fun, kind of relax a bit, just set our own boat on fire, things like that. Playing Cyber Shadow, of course. Dishonored 2, I'm still playing. I've still been enjoying that
Nice.
one. And I'm still trying to complete Miles Morales on PS5. So I was just playing that right before recording, actually,
Oh,
and
awesome.
unlocked a pretty sick suit. I showed it to my brother, and it's like, I don't know, it's like this glass dome for a head, and you have like a glass chest,
weird.
and it has like a kind of imaging, that like holographic imaging inside, and it's really cool looking. My brother called it the dubstep suit because it totally has like the face can like change almost like Zero in like Borderlands 2 or something like that. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of all I've been playing right now. But later tonight, I'm going to be playing some Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury with
Heck
Taylor.
yeah.
I'm very excited about that to arrive. And yeah, no, it's been a good time. It's been a good week of games. I just gotta say, this is what I love about you, Zig. You are like, what's a good analogy here? When we're doing this podcast, we're like a awesome ice cream sundae, right? I'm the basic vanilla
yeah.
ice cream. I'm consistent. I feel like I'm good at times. Sometimes you just don't want it. But you're like all those good toppings, whatever you want on there. You're the sprinkles, you're the chocolate sauce, you're the everything else, whatever you want on there. You bring, and what I mean by this is you always bring all these like games I've never heard of. When I say, "What have you played last week?" I go, "What are you talking about? I've never heard this one." And then you go right into the next one, and I've never heard of that. And sometimes there's more than two. So, anyways, I appreciate that. I just think it's worth pointing out that I appreciate it.
What can I say? I have excellent taste. But I don't know what you're saying. I feel like I'm like the, I don't know, because sprinkles, it's good on any ice cream, really. I feel like I like to think I bring the I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that more controversial. You never
Banana?
know what I'm gonna bring. It might be, yeah, exactly, yeah, bananas. Sometimes that's really just what you're looking for in a sundae, and sometimes it just does not work out. I feel like that's what I like to bring to the table.
Fair enough.
That unpredictability.
The unpredictability of a banana.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's just jump right into our Cyber Shadow impression, Zig. Why don't you start us off with this one? What did you think of it? How much did you play? This is a game published by Yacht Club Games, and it was developed by Mechanical Head Games.
Machine Games.
I almost said, yeah. Mechanical Head Games developed this, and yeah, published by Yacht Club Games.
Awesome.
Yeah, how much did you play, and what did you think of it?
Yeah, I played probably around an hour. Definitely not a ton. And I liked it. I think it is a very good, a very competent to good retro platformer, but I definitely don't think it really left an impression on me because there is just so many games like this out there right now, and I think the biggest thing I can say is it is great. If this was in a vacuum, like, this would be a really, really great game. But when games, we were talking about this before the show, like The Messenger exist, I find it really difficult to not compare them. And
Gotcha.
I think what this game lacks for me is charm. Like, The Messenger was just like aggressively charming, or like the shopkeeper messing with you, and like all the little funny bits of writing and stuff made it really enjoyable. Whereas this has less of that charm and more of just like very tight platforming, good combat, like is a very tight retro gameplay experience, but I can get that in so many different places that I am usually more drawn to something like The Messenger, like Celeste, that brings something more to the table than just good retro gameplay,
Yeah.
But that is definitely not to like throw shade at the game. It's just the sort of thing of like, it again, if this was in a vacuum, this would be an amazing game, but and it is an amazing game, but it's just hard to really click with it and really, feel it when I could play The Messenger, or could play Celeste, or could play so many other games of this ilk, that just leave a stronger impression.
Awesome. Yeah. For myself, I played about an hour too. I really liked this game for that hour. I don't think I'm going to go back to it. I see what you're saying about the Messenger having, you said charm. Like I'll say it had character, that just felt like even just the game as a whole is a character, and you kind of get what the character wants you to experience. And this game was very much like it just doesn't have that. I totally see what you're saying with that. For myself, I played for an hour and I got to chapter 3, I think is what it said when I stopped. Beat about 3 bosses. I just have my little head up here and my gameplay playing in the background here, just to like kind of show what it's like while we're talking. And you have like your slice. As far as I got in the game, you basically just have a press whatever button to slice in front of you, and it's just a slice right in front. There's no slicing up, no down, just whatever's right in front of you. So you really got to time and position yourself to be right in front of the enemy or the thing you're trying to hit. And after every boss, you seem to unlock a new ability. Or every major boss, you unlock an ability. So I only got 2. And one was a shuriken you could throw. So you basically get a projectile that can launch across in a horizontal direction from where you're standing. And then I unlocked a like fire uppercut thing that I didn't get to use. I think that's right when I got off, was from like the 3rd boss there. And I never really used the shuriken in combat, but I found situations where it was probably better to use it in those situations. I don't know. I found the combat and everything was good, but I didn't find it extremely difficult, because I know it was supposed to be more similar to like the old Ninja Gaiden games on the NES or something like that, is what I've heard. And I didn't play those before, but I just heard a lot about them being very, very challenging. And I'm not trying to be cocky on that. I just, for myself, I think I had an expectation as I die there. That was a funny one. Just walk through a door and jump and then you're dead. But basically, while I did have my struggles, and especially actually with the 3rd boss, I had to try quite a few times. I didn't find any in between actually very challenging. I have to re-hit a checkpoint every now and then, but it wasn't anything that made me go, oh, do I have what it takes to finish this game, or is this gonna be where I stop for today? None of that. I was just, okay, I'll finish this boss and then I'm gonna get off for today, that kind of thing. I wrote down a few pros and cons for myself, so I'm just gonna read those.
Actually, before you do that,
yeah.
I want to touch on the challenge a little bit.
Okay.
I have dabbled in the classic Ninja Gaiden games, and from what I can gather from like the bits I've played of those, bits I've played of this, they seem sort of equally challenging in terms of like the actual encounters you're doing. The difference is that this is significantly more forgiving, and that there is checkpoints, and ninja, like the original Ninja Gaidens, you die and you either go back to the start of the level or the start of the game. And
right.
So that high level of difficulty, here you die maybe a couple times at a spot and then you just go. But you can learn things quickly, catch up on what it wants you to do, and then just sort of move on. Whereas in the original, that type of difficulty was kind of stupid, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't
actually,
like the original Ninja Gaidens.
That would wear me down.
I kind of really hate the original Ninja Gaidens, but I like the concept, which is why I really love The Messenger, and I think that this does a better job because it does have checkpoints. It does let you sort of learn what the game wants you to do. And I would definitely say the game's a little bit more challenging for me. I was looking at your gameplay before we started, and I think I said oh, geez, you're a lot better than me at this, huh? Because I did die pretty frequently, but like I said, I was able to, I was able to learn what the game needed me to do pretty quickly in most cases. But yeah, so if compared to if you are used to that Ninja Gaiden level of difficulty, I don't think you'll be disappointed, but definitely some forgiveness in here, which I appreciate. Anyways, move on.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So for my pros, I wrote down that right now I'm totally in the mood for this kind of music and art style, like this pixelated, any 8-bit kind of graphic style. I'm in the mood for that, but when I'm not, like, this just wouldn't hit for me. So
Oh yeah.
I'm on a high for this game right now, but it definitely would be a mood swing kind of situation. But I do find that the attacks and the enemy animations and the designs are fun. I can kind of tell what they are, and I actually like them. And on the con side, I find that the environments were a little bit confusing. I found sometimes it was very difficult to tell if something was in the foreground or the background. And I don't think it'll appear on this gameplay here, but there was a couple situations where I jumped thinking I was going to land on a platform, and I just go right through and die because I thought that was a platform to jump to, and it wasn't. And there was another situation where I guess I beat a boss, and then there was a door up above. I had no idea, so I ended up, because I didn't know that was a platform above me, and I didn't even notice the door, and backtracked like 10 minutes maybe, and then was like, this doesn't seem right. So then I went all the way back forward, got to this boss room, and went, oh, I just had to jump up a couple platforms. Didn't realize that. So I found the environment was a bit tricky to understand what was important and what wasn't. And I feel like that's a bit of a negative that could be done better. And then what else here? Yeah, I only made it to chapter 3, so I just want to like comment on my difficulty thing that I said here. Like, I only made it to chapter 3. It definitely kicked my butt at a couple points. And me saying it's not that hard definitely doesn't mean that it is that way for the whole game. Yeah, like I played an hour just like you, Zig, and but I did find the first boss was pretty simple. I don't remember if that was playing earlier on, but I basically just ran up and started slicing him, and I beat him before he could beat me. And that was it. And I was like, wow, that was kind of pathetic. But the third boss, that was cool. There was like 3 or 4 phases to that one, and I just didn't expect it. There's like this mech. I'm not worried about spoiling things, so spoiler warning for people who do care about that. There's this mech, and I got his health right down to about a third left, and then it damaged, and he was stuck in one spot and just kept spamming this one attack over and over. And it was kind of like a fireball that would stay burning for a second and then go away. And so it was pretty easy to just run up, dodge that one fireball, hit him, run back, do it again. Once you break it, then the guy inside this mech would jump out and go flying through the air. Then he'd do this little jump attack. He'd jump up, throw the fireball down, then like kind of flip to the side. And when he was doing that, I got owned so many times with that. And then once I realized what I'm supposed to do, I realized he'd shoot his fireball, and if I was close enough, I could just walk right under before the fireball would hit me. So like the trajectory of this fireball would move so slow, you could walk right under it, and you just like wait for the guy to land, and you just slice him. Then he jumps up again, you walk over where he's gonna land, and he just throw a fireball over you, and you do it over and over. So that kind of stuff was fun. I liked actually learning the fight, and I liked having to get better at the game. Here's another boss, I guess, right here. But I just found them like all very, very interesting. I found them like fun to learn. Like, okay, there's lasers shooting across the room here. You can see a slight light on the circle where it's gonna, in the direction where it's gonna shoot, and then you just have the center core, whatever the heck that is, just shooting its little fireballs. But like, again, there you go, beat that one. It didn't take that long. I didn't find it too bad, but I found the in between levels a little bit more challenging until I got that final boss. I don't have much else to say on that one. I used the D-pad on the Elite controller, and I found the controls felt really good. So I will say that like there wasn't any point where I felt like, oh, this game controls bad. It controls great. Does exactly what I wanted it to. And yeah, actually, you talking about the checkpoints, I liked that there was constant progression. Like, you're getting abilities, you're moving forward, you're getting some money that you can use on. Actually, I'll just comment on the checkpoints. On certain special ones, you can choose to get a bonus. You can get up to 3, and it might extend your sword slice. So if you see on the screen above, I got this little, right beside my health, there's a little, like, it looks like a blue curved boomerang. It basically extends how far your sword reaches when you slice. And I have like, well, 1 yellow square now beside that, and that indicates you have 3 hits before you lose that power up. So normally you have like 3 of these yellow squares, and that'll kind of go away as you get hurt. that was just kind of cool. You get that, and then if you die, you go back to your checkpoint. If you unlocked that ability at that checkpoint, you will be able to just basically use that ability over and over as many times as you need as you're playing through the game. So anyways, just wanted to mention that too. That's it for me. Do you have anything else to say on this game, Zig?
Yeah, I want to real quick touch on the art direction too, because I forgot to say that this game does look really cool. Like as I mentioned before, 2D pixel art games is kind of a really saturated genre right now, but this game definitely does a good job of making itself look unique and stand out for the most part. Like a lot of the backgrounds just look really weird, which I like. Just sort of, I don't know exactly how to describe it. I mean, it's cybery, hence the name, but like on this footage here, there's like those weird glowing eyes in the background and all that. Like it definitely has a pretty unique look, which I appreciate. Also, actually, this is sort of unrelated to the game itself, but you mentioned the D-pad on your controller, and I wanted to mention, just in the ongoing sort of review of our new consoles, one of the controllers I purchased for my Series X, which it was the one I bought a controller like when it launched, so it's way younger than, or not way, like several months younger than my other controller. But the B button on that controller has already started to stick a little bit.
Oh.
Like occasionally I'll press it and it doesn't come back up instantly. And that is concerning. That is really concerning because that controller has not been used and abused enough to have start doing that yet. And I mean, my guess is that's just sort of a first wave of electronics issue. You know, like as the lifespans continue, they'll get manufactured better. They'll work out those kinks. But yeah, I just thought that's worth mentioning, especially since there was rumblings this week about like the dual sense having like stick drift issues. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up real quick. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for my thoughts on Cyber Shadow.
Okay. Yeah, you talking about the controls on your controller. My Elite controller actually has 2 issues with it too. But I've had mine since 2019, so it's not as young. but still something that's expensive and that you're not wanting to have to replace. And right now for me it's my left bumper. And a lot of games that I play you have to hold it down to either bring up a radial wheel or to aim something. And when I played Division 2, I had it set as that was the button to aim your skill. And I would go to aim it at a guy, but instead it just counted it as a tap because it would press it out and let go.
Oh, no.
And I'd feel the click, but it wouldn't press. Or then I'd pull harder and then it would just consider it as a press and let go. And I'd just end up shooting a bomb at myself or right on the ground and blow myself up or something like that while I was playing with Jesse. So that sucks. And then my X button is starting to not work when I press it. So I've started to reassign those to the paddles at the back just to make that work. But I know I can do it in game too. It's just, it's a bummer when your controllers start to do that and you start to go, you want to think they're going to last forever.
$150 controller. Yeah.
But even in your case, yours is so recent that you got it. Like that really blows. But enough about that. Let's go on to our next thing, which actually maybe we'll skip it because it says Ziggy wins Metacritic for the medium. I forgot to mention it last week. We can skip that if you want, honestly.
Yeah. I don't really care, to be honest. I won. Anyways.
But
we can talk about.
I'll just quickly say the medium got a 76 on Metacritic for a PC. Ziggy predicted a 79, and I was optimistic and said 91. So I was way off. And Zig, congratulations on that there.
Thank you.
But really, moving on now, we're going to talk about MetaHuman, which is the digital humans by Epic Games and like what, or Unreal Engine and all Epic Games stuff and what they can do with that. Ziggy, just talk to me about it. Tell me how this is going to affect people.
So the first thing I thought when I saw this was, are you aware of the series Monster Factory that the McElroy brothers create, where they basically just use character creators in games and make some absolute abominations? First thing I thought when I saw this is, oh man, I can't wait for them to get their hands on this. And then the second thing I thought is this, are people actually going to use this? Like, is this going to be a real thing that people use? And upon watching it, I still don't really know. And I think the answer for that is yes, sort of, in some cases. But basically, yeah. So if you're unaware, you're just seeing right here. MetaHuman is basically a sort of character model creation suite in like I think it's a browser app even.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it seems to be very accessible, and it's all integrated into Unreal Engine. And it's real-time ready character assets that, as you can see here, look phenomenal. Like they look really, really lifelike, to the point where it's kind of creepy and a little uncanny, especially when you get a little close up, but that's just sort of the nature of graphics at the moment. Like these are, I would say, probably like the Last of Us 2 quality character models, or at least in the way that and like the thing that got me is like the skin deformation, like around their lips and stuff when they're talking. That's really, really impressive. And that's why I compare it to The Last of Us 2, because that is kind of what made the facial animations in that game so good, is the way that the skin like realistically deformed to, and like the muscles and all that.
Gotta have those pores stretch, man.
Exactly.
I just played this back at slow motion and it looks terrible, so my bad.
But yeah, I think for AAA studios, I don't necessarily see them using this, because I mean, it's the same reason why AAA studios don't really buy assets on the Unity store or whatever. Like, they usually want that really, really precise level of control, and I think this actually seems to be giving a really precise level of control. But for smaller studios, and I wouldn't even necessarily say just indie, like I think for like Hellblade level productions of that sort of AA, like it looks really pretty, but it's still an indie game type production. I think this will be really, really great, because character models are hard. There's a reason why I never do character modeling. Like, it sucks, and it takes so much time. And the problem with making humans is that it's really easy for them to look so creepy. Like, even when they look nearly flawless like this, it looks weird. It's just not quite right, And so I think for those types of studios, this is going to be a really big game changer, because it allows them to divert those resources away from just spending money on characters and more into environment and stuff like that. And especially in Unreal 5, where it sort of dynamically scales models and stuff like that. So something you can use a really high poly model in the background. I think this is going to be great, because it allows those studios to just pump out characters. Like they said something, because a model like this would take weeks to like months plus for a really, really detailed proper character model like this. But this is like hours it's done. So you can get someone just sitting on this program pumping out characters, and like whether, even if it's not the protagonist, even if it's just like NPC number 256 or whatever in some city, it just will make that process so much easier. You can populate it and have unique characters at a much faster and, more importantly, cheaper tilt for these studios. And I think that is really, really important. Or not necessarily important, but I think that could definitely be a game changer for studios on the smaller end.
Yeah, I have three things that I kind of like came to mind for me. Couple when you were talking there. One being, how do we think Epic will use this? Are they just going to, make it available and leave it alone? Or are they going to, in my mind, like, are they going to make some major game where this is your character creator or something like that? Something to that effect, where they can go, we have this crazy. It's like Epic can do whatever they want. They can make a big RPG if they want, right? And if they want to do that, then do it, and then make this your character creator. Like, that'd be pretty cool, honestly, I think. Or is it just purely going to be here, we're making this as a thing that our developers can use and you guys can use and whatever. Second thing I was thinking about was when they make this available to people, I don't remember seeing anything about this being free. I don't remember seeing this about how they're going to distribute it or make it available. So even if it is browser based, is this going to be like, how are they going to stop, or do they care to stop just somebody from, creating, porn with their characters, or creating whatever they want, really? You could make some real, funny stuff. You can make really scary stuff. You can make all kinds of things, right? And mixing this with, I don't know, other technologies, you might be able to just do some crazy stuff with it. And I'm wondering if they will want this part. Yeah, I know Unreal Engine is free, for developers to use up to a point, and will this part be maybe sold separately, or something like that. These are the batteries that are not included. So I don't know. And then the last thing that I was thinking about was like this kind of program could be a great way to get references too. If you want to create your own character and maybe you want to play around with certain facial features or hairstyles or whatever and just kind of get a reference and then still make your own thing, you totally could, right? I just think that those are the three things I kind of thought of through there.
In terms of your saying like monetization, I would be really surprised if this isn't free, just knowing how Epic operates. Like my guess is it would be like Unreal Engine, where it's free to mess around with, but once you do something commercial, you have to pay royalties. And I really hope they do it with this. Like you were saying, there definitely is potential to use this nefariously, but I don't know if there's. I was gonna say I don't know if Epic cares. I'm sure it is something that they thought about, but I just don't know if there's anything they can really do. Like because I don't. Tech like deep faking already exists.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this is nearly as nefarious as something like deep faking, because deep faking looks straight up real sometimes. Like there's been and the almost entirely of when I've seen it is in like memes, But even then I'll see memes are like, is it like, and I have to stop and think like, is that real? And then sometimes I'll look it up and be like, hey, no, it isn't. But like, even when you're looking for it, it's really hard to distinguish. Whereas CG will likely, or at least this type of CG, it looks CG. Like, if you didn't know what you're looking at for a second, I could see you might think, oh, that's a real person, but then realize it isn't. But I think that isn't necessarily the biggest priority for them, is what I'm saying. So I don't think that they're going to change their monetization scheme to prevent that, or I don't even know if they're going to take many steps to prevent that. I hope, and I don't know what those would be. Like I'm trying to rack my brain of what they would do, and I just don't think there is a thing. And what you're saying with like NSFW animators and stuff like that, I could totally see them using that. And as long as it's not like creating a real person and then putting them in a porn or something, like that would obviously be really bad. But I don't necessarily think that's an end of the world scenario. And I especially don't think Epic thinks that. Like, I mean, Jesus, look at Source Filmmaker. Like that program is almost half used for porn at this point. But
yeah, it's I think when you mix the deep fake, and because when you have a deep fake on someone else's face who does like their head shape is different or whatever, you can still make it look pretty realistic. What if you make a 3D character, maybe the CG doesn't look so like totally real, but you get it to where the hair is actually perfect and the facial shape is very similar, and then you deep fake that's when it can like really start to be like, oh, I don't know, I can't tell the difference now. Right, like putting those technologies together could be interesting. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's not going to be something they can prevent. If they try they'll fail. I just wanted to bring it up as a what will they do, or won't they, that kind of thing. Anything else on that before we go on to the next topic here?
No, I'm just really excited to get my hands on it. I think there's some sort of like beta right now for like registered something. I don't know if I can get access to it. Probably not. But I'm really excited to, like, I don't know how much I'll use it, because if you follow my art on Instagram or anything, that's not really the type of stuff I do. But I really just want to fuck around with it, really. Like I want to boot it up on my computer and just make something. I want to make me, I want to make whoever. And then and even then, if I do use it, like I could totally see myself, if I make an environment or something, like, oh, I want a person here, and instead of having to like either download an asset for that probably costs money, I could just make something, import it, and then if I just want like a silhouette of a person like leaning over handrail or something, like that'd be perfect, for just a really quick, easy, like an hour in out, I have exactly what I want for this scene. Like that would be awesome for an independent artist like me who isn't even trying to make money off of it. But yeah, I'm super excited to just get my hands on it, I think this is a really promising project. And especially one thing I forgot to mention is they've talked about this a lot with Unreal 5, and they are continuing to talk about it here, but scalability, where they're talking about these models later on being able to scale to Switch and to mobile and to all these things.
The different levels of detail.
That is really, really smart, I think. Yeah, making it so it isn't just using these crazy detailed models for a PS5 game or a high-end PC game, but yeah, for your mobile game or your VR project or whatever. I think that I'm really glad that they're focusing on that, because as we've seen in the coming generation, scalability seems to be a big thing, where everything is, where there's 2 different SKUs of Xbox and will probably be 3 or 4 later on, and I'm sure Sony will have a different SKU of the PS5, and I'm glad that that's a focus.
Yeah, I guess there's the downloadable these 2 high quality fully rigged sample characters that you can get. So are you gonna download those? see what it's all about? I definitely think it would be fun to I don't know how easy it'll be, but I would love to make us, and then just if there was ever a way in the far future that we could make it so we could just talk and the mouths moved and just do that for our show. Just do it for our show for one episode.
That'd be awesome.
Talk through our avatars. That would be awesome. But yeah, so let's just move into the next topic then. Real quick, I just wanted to touch on that Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart was announced to launch on June 11th. And first thing I thought when I saw that was, didn't they say launch window when they announced that game? So I just wanted to ask you, is June too late to be in a launch window? Because I think it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, launch window means absolutely nothing.
I get why.
I don't believe
I understand all the business side of why they did all this. That's why this is a short segment.
I feel like more than 6 months later, though, is really getting to that, all right, guys, I don't know about this one.
It's selling the console, man.
Yeah, but overall, I don't really care. I don't know, Sony lied.
No.
But yeah, I always think it's funny.
It's worth laughing at, that's all.
For sure, yeah.
As speaking of laughing at, let's move on to the next thing on my list here. Pokemon Day, which is on February 27th. There's some kind of virtual concert, and it has Post Malone in there. I wish I brought up a picture. Now that I think about it, I didn't, so I don't have that quickly available here. But he looks ridiculous in artificial form. Let me see if I can find it here.
I'm on the case. Keep talking.
Okay. How are you going to find it? Or show it on here?
YouTube.
Anyways, it's happening. It's Post Malone and his digital self is going to be, performing in some way for Pokemon fans, people. I
think you really got to bring this up, because the thing that caught my eye with this was I saw the video for it in my YouTube feed and saw this really fucking weird looking Pokemon stylized Post Malone. This bit's just live action.
Pokemon Day virtual concert with Post Malone, number 21 on trending right now.
It's so weird. Of any artist to get for a Pokemon concert, Post Malone is just a weird.
On the Pokeball, he's like, I want to be the very best.
That's the bit. Yeah, the weird,
Wow, that's special.
So here's the question though, because Post Malone definitely not my first choice in terms of who I think should actually do a Pokemon concert. But who do you think would be good? Who do you think would actually fit that Pokemon thing? Because personally, I was thinking churches. They're definitely popular, but I don't know if they're popular enough. But I feel like churches' sound would really fit what Pokemon is.
Honestly, I'm just really uneducated with music, so I don't have a leg in the race there. I listen to video game music almost exclusively, and I'm not a fan of anyone, so I'm pretty boring when it comes to that. So I'll take your word for it.
I like the music video they did a while ago. I don't know anything about Pokemon, so I'm gonna just kind of shut up and let you talk about this one.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you that. I couldn't remember if you'd played Pokemon or played much lately. Have you ever played it?
I played Pokemon Go. If that counts. I really like Pokemon Go, but I would not say that I'm a Pokemon fan. The games don't really interest me too much.
Yeah, I found so I played Sword and Shield whenever that came out a year ago. Um and maybe it was even longer ago. I don't know, a year and a bit. Anyhow, I liked the game kind of, but I thought I was starting to get tired of the whole turn-based RPG thing. Turns out that's not true. I was just getting tired of Pokemon. So I was talking about Pokemon with my friend this morning at work, and we were talking about how, why are we kind of, we've both been fans of Pokemon since we were kids, right? We've been fans of it. He's still a huge fan of the games. I've kind of started to dial back, and even I see him starting to get burnt out a bit. And I was asking him what he thinks would be what's needed for Pokemon. I said, do you need another generation, like a whole another 100 and whatever Pokemon to add it to this 800 other ones? And he's like, no, I don't. Like, I don't need more of those. And I was telling him that really I wish that there was less total Pokemon to worry about, and that they just kind of focused more on what makes the games good and try to expand that. The games look terrible for what they should be able, like, for how much money that company has and how much time and effort they obviously put into their games. They could definitely make the games look a lot better than they do. I was pretty disappointed on Switch when you compare it to other Switch games that are on there, and you see Pokemon Sword and Shield. The games look bad. They look like the 3D, like a 3DS game. Like, it looks like it could run on the 3DS, and that's not something I necessarily need, but it is something that I notice. I don't need the games to be better looking. But one thing I was telling my friend was, this is one of the few games I feel, like Pokemon in general, the core Pokemon games that everyone talks about. There's always the one version and the other version, red and blue, and, silver and gold. I think this is one of the few games that need to be almost like a games as a service. Where
totally, yeah.
Where right now with Pokemon, you buy the game, you go through, you're collecting your Pokemon, you can usually transfer from the previous game, so then maybe you have most of the Pokemon already caught now because you transferred all your other shit from before, and then you're playing it for maybe 40 hours, go through 8 gyms, you fight the Elite Four, you beat those guys, you collect items, you get your Pokemon leveling up, they can max out at level 100, and then that's it. And with Sword and Shield, they added 2 DLCs that added some stuff to the game, but for me, I think that the games need to be more... and every new generation there's a new island, right? You're starting on a whole new island, new environment and whatnot, and there's always some kind of twist, like mega evolutions, and the Charizard now looks different, but it's only for that match, and then he goes back to normal. I want something like that, but I want it to be a permanent change. Add another form to Charizard, make it a permanent one, but maybe it's only available at level 150, but that's higher than 100. So what do we do there? Let's maybe increase the max level cap through like an update and just kind of keep a game going. So I think that they need to do something like that, where they have islands, they add islands to the game throughout every year or so, and that they add more, not more Pokemon, sorry, but like you start small with the original few, add more back till you get to the 800,000 that they have right now, and just kind of just keep adding it to it in that way. And I think that's what the game needs, because you could totally have your trainer level and get cosmetics. They could do their microtransaction crap. I'm just talking business side there. And then you have your just regular updates and having new content, new Pokemon, new evolutions, new max level, and still be able to scale down to battling other friends, have a more social version of that. Sorry, I had dust floating in my face. And just have it like more social. Right now you're playing all these single player games and you have to go to a spot in order to talk to usually a computer in order to try to match you up with someone. They have to wait half an hour to get a battle going. I don't know, stuff like that is very not user friendly, and I think they need to really take some time to figure out what they want to do with these games. But they also don't have to listen to me. They're doing very well.
No.
And my opinion doesn't matter, honestly. I talked about that way longer than I needed to and meant to. So Ziggy, let's talk about the most important thing here. You played Little Nightmares 2, and you played it all night. You beat it. Let's talk about your review. Tell me all about this game, because I can't play it and I want to.
All right. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to spoil anything. I'm even going to try to stay away from like the specifics of encounters later on, because Little Nightmares, definitely the story is it's heavy on story, but it's very vague. So if I describe something, I'm not necessarily spoiling story. I'm just sort of spoiling I don't know how to really describe it. It's a weird sort of deal, but super surface level. I adore this game. I would definitely say it's on par with the first one. I think in some ways it's better. I think in some ways it makes changes that I don't really agree with, but I think overall it is definitely still a really, really, really solid game. Um, and so right at the bat, yeah. So just kind of getting into it. They don't change a lot from the first game. The formula is definitely still pretty simple. You said you hadn't played the original, right?
No, that's right.
Okay, so for people who aren't really familiar, it is a very like Tim Burton-esque, like it sort of has that like claymation paper mache type aesthetic to it. So it looks very uncanny, very creepy. And it's a 3D cinematic platformer, I think would be the right way to describe it, where it's similar to Limbo or Inside, with the added twist of it has a y-axis, so you can go towards or away from the screen, which definitely has its benefits and also definitely has its drawbacks. Like, all my biggest issues with both the first game and this game almost all stem from that y-axis, but I do think it allows some really cool things. And so the two biggest additions from the first game to this, one, as you saw right there, they added in sort of some light combat, which I think is the weakest part of the game, but not necessarily bad. I think it does make some cool set pieces. And the second one is that there's now two of you. However, it isn't co-op, like pretty much everybody thought it was. Six is, so you play as Mono, and Six, which is the protagonist from the first game, she is sort of guiding you through. And like literally a day before launch, because me and my friend, we played the first game together, and we were playing the second game together. And I was like, so I looked up like, okay, how do we do the co-op for this? And it was like, oh, there isn't co-op. Like, that's weird. Why not?
Oh,
there
that
is
sucks.
2 people running around on the screen here. And I want to get into that because I both agree and disagree with that decision. Like, playing through the game, it definitely makes sense why there isn't, because there's some really cool set pieces they do where the two of you get separated, or Six gets captured, or something. You just saw her get snatched right there in the trailer. Just interesting stuff like that it does with the dynamic. And I also think that she makes a really good buddy. Like, because we couldn't play co-op, my friend and I were playing, we were in party with each other, like talking while playing it. And we both were saying, like, there's a mechanic where you can basically hold Six's hand to like guide her to specific parts, but both of us were holding her hand the entire time. We're like, something about holding down right trigger and holding her hand while playing like is comforting in real life when you're in these situations. Like, just having someone there. And I think it's really powerful, I think, the way that they sort of built that dynamic. And they do some really interesting things with puzzle solving, where she will sort of like guide you around, or she'll see something and be like, hey, and sort of like whisper out to you and like motion you over towards it to go do something, or like give you a leg up. And she feels genuinely helpful. Like, obviously with these types of games where you have a companion, that's a big question, is do they get in the way? Are they worth it? And I definitely don't think she gets in the way. And I don't, and I like how she augments the puzzles. I think they do a good job. And the way that she does stuff without you even asking her, like, there is sort of a call mechanic. And sometimes you'll be expecting to have to crank something or expecting to have to do something, and she just does it for you, and you're like, oh shit, okay, like that makes my life a lot easier. I thought that was really cool. So another sort of comparison with the first game is the first game was not, I wouldn't, from what I remember, it wasn't hard horror as much as it was really creepy and unsettling and just sort of like got under your skin. This one is not the same way. This game is scary as fuck.
I was gonna ask which one's scarier.
Yeah, definitely the second game by a long shot. And I don't necessarily think that makes it better or worse per se. It's just different. But specifically the third area, I don't want to spoil why, but I, like, my TV is by my bed, and there's a couple times where I just like literally pause the game and like put the blanket over my head for a second. Like, it is fucking terrifying. But they pace it so well where you're having like nearly having a heart attack in one section, but then they do let you just sort of like chill out and do a couple puzzles and soak in the atmosphere a bit and then bring you back into the scares. And so it never feels overwhelming per se. Like this sometimes my issue with like Resident Evil and stuff is it just feels so unrelenting. Like I have to take breaks because it's just constantly horrifying. But this game does a good job of guiding you through where it's terrifying, and then it sort of slows down and has that ebb and flow to it, which I really, really enjoy. I definitely think that's a good decision. And story-wise, similarly excellent with the first game. Like I said, it's really vague. When I finished the game, the first thing I said to Owen, who I was in chat with, was like, I can't wait for people to make theory videos about this game because there's a lot to chew on, a lot to think about.
I like that.
And yeah, where the ending happens, now it's just kind of like, huh, like that is fascinating. And I've been thinking about it ever since. Like, what happened? Why did they do that? Like, all these different things, some cool little reveals and all that. And ways that they tied into the first game that I thought were really interesting too, where it, at a first glance, seems kind of detached story-wise from the first game, but it definitely isn't. It is a hard sequel. But yeah, if you're looking for a good horror game, this game is also 5 hours long. It's quite short, so if you're wanting something just like jump in out, it is $30, which you're chatting for the show, like that the hours to money is maybe a little iffy. I would say I don't always necessarily agree with that line of thinking because I think that the quality of hours, like each minute in this game is packed with something interesting. It isn't like a Persona or a Final Fantasy, where many of the hours you spend are just kind of whatever. Like every single minute in this game is used very, very well. It has like I mentioned the pacing before. The pacing of this game is immaculate, and so I would solidly say it's worth it. But like I was telling you, Nick, right now the first game is $4 on Steam. So honestly, if you haven't played the first game, you'd be fine jumping into the second. I don't think you'll be lost. But if you haven't played the first game, just go play the first game. Like, there isn't much reason to play the second game instead of the first because they are largely quite similar in what they do. Which actually, there's a couple more things I want to touch on that side of things.
Yeah, it's all your time, man.
In that, yeah, where they are similar, but it never felt samey to me. Where it is this sort of basic gameplay loop of you're doing puzzles and then you meet a scary person, thing, creature, and then you sort of play hide and seek with it for a bit where, you're running and hiding and jumping in and out of stealth. But I like how they mix it up where I don't think this is too spoilery. Like, for example, there is one enemy who he like crawls on the ceiling on all fours, which is sort of sound surface level, but really changes the dynamic of how you run and hide because he is coming from up top. So if you're under something, you are really, really safe. But unless you're under something, you are so vulnerable. Like if you're just hiding behind a crate, he can probably see you, which is interesting. That's different from other people or other ones where it's just a lot of smaller enemies as opposed to one sort of big boss. And because you usually, there's a big chase sequence at the end, you kill them or whatever. And I really like how each encounter sort of changed things up, each set piece. It took those basic ideas and did something different with them, which I super, super appreciated. And also, this game, you can tell, really soaked in the games that came out since its release, where Little Nightmares 1 and Inside came out so close to each other that I would struggle to say Little Nightmares was inspired by Inside, but they were really similar. Whereas this one, definitely inspired by Inside. Like, that opening level, playing it, I'm like, oh, like, these people definitely played Inside, and I saw them and go, oh, that's cool as shit. I wonder how we could take these ideas and put it into our game. And I think it works really well. Like, it doesn't feel derivative. It just feels like they learned, and that's awesome. And the other thing is, maybe this is just my own bias, but I feel like these people played Half-Life Alyx because this game borrows tricks from that game's horror, where, like, notably, the way Half-Life Alyx puts you in a bad situation. You get out of it, and then there's a puzzle and it says, "Sorry, shithead, you have to go in and like purposefully put yourself back in that shitty situation again." And that feels so scary and it feels so uncomfortable. And this game does that like 4 or 5 times. And each time it just sucked to do, and I loved it. And the ending sequence too really felt similar in style to what Half-Life Alyx did, where it's I don't want to talk about it, but if you've played it too, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
That's something special.
What I'm talking about. Yeah, it does something different. It changes things up in a similar way. But yeah, I think that's about it. Overall, I mean, if you're looking for a good horror game, play this or the original, because I know not a ton of people played the original. Yeah, it's fantastic. 2 thumbs up for me. They really, really hit the mark on it. I think in terms of polish, in terms of level design and set pieces, it does an arguably better job than the first game. I do think that there's some issues with navigating that 3D plane that make it a little bit frustrating at times, but never enough to actually take down how I feel about the game. And that's probably like why I would put it underneath Inside in my rank of stuff, because I think Inside's world is just slightly more compelling, and Inside also has just like an obscene amount of polish to it, where like, you know, you never encounter a bug. Oh yes, what's your question?
Sorry, question from the class here. Just wondering, does Little Nightmares 2 have music, or is it like more ambient noise? Or
yes, it actually does have quite a bit of music.
Okay, is it good?
Is definitely different from Inside. I liked it a lot. Okay. Yeah. Although some of it is, you know, it varies actually. Now that I think about it, like some of it is kind of just orchestral, and some of it has a little bit more something to it, I guess. And then there's obviously the classic like creepy kid singing music that was sort of iconic with the first game too. But yeah, definitely has a soundtrack, where it's something like Inside doesn't as much.
Right.
But yeah, I think those are my main thoughts on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Zig. Thanks for staying up till 3 in the morning and having a good time with a game. Just, you know.
My pleasure.
Well, let's move right into our top. It's our favorite 50 games of all time. I keep trying to remember to say favorite, because it's definitely not like we don't consider these to be the best 50 games of all time, but we do consider them to be our favorite 50 games. And we are on to number, are we on 47? I think we are. Yeah, we are. Yes. 47. So I'm going to give you a bit of a break, Zig. I will start with this one. I'll go right into my number 47 here. My number 47 is Super Mario Bros. The original / Duck Hunt, because it was all on that one cartridge, and I know I'm trying to stay away. I actually even fixed up some of my items, but like that, I have to do a hybrid game on this one, because that I remember. This was the first console I ever played, was the NES. Playing this hybrid thing where you had Mario Bros. And you had Duck Hunt on there. That's where I learned how to put a cartridge into a console and turn it on at my grandma's house, and plugging, you know, the cables into the back, and learning how, you know, feeling the static on the front of the TV, things like that. Like that all takes me back. And I remember just making Jesse watch me play this game for so long. I don't know if we had only one controller or not, but I know that I'd turn on the game. I think you could use one controller, and you just pass it back and forth, if I remember correctly. And, you know, say it was the green Mario Luigi's turn, and my brother would play, he'd die right away from the first enemy, and then I'd get the controller back, and you don't have to give it back until you die. So I'd just keep playing, and as I got better at the game, Jesse would spend more time just sitting there watching me. And for me, that's just a great memory, because, you know, having someone right beside you who's miserable, that's the best. No, I just remember playing Mario Bros. So much, and I remember never beating the game as a kid. I have now, but that game is so special to me, and I just love how good you can get at that game. If you really make that your focus, you can get to be incredible at it. I love seeing some of the speedrunners, like how fast they fly through that thing. And I think that just having something that starts so happy and is simple, to where just jump on that Goomba, get that mushroom, get to the final flag, to get to the flag at the end of the level. Just getting that smile on my face when I get a star. I'm excited to play Mario later today, as you can tell. But yeah, just that original Mario Bros. I have to put it on my list. It's something that's so special to me. It's so near and dear to my heart. And I don't want to talk about it too much, but yeah, the duck hunt part is also something I want to mention, because that was where I realized I love shooters. I love first-person shooters. no, but Halo 3 for me was that. But playing Duck Hunt and holding that gun up to the TV and just like trying to hit those ducks was just a blast, and I have equal fond memories with that one too. So yeah, Zig, what's your number 47 game?
My 47 might seem kind of out of place with a lot of these, but it's Watch Dogs 2, which is a game that I love. I know. A single player Ubisoft game, what can I say? It is not a particularly unique game in terms of like gameplay. It is just kind of another GTA in some ways, but the thing that hits home for me is the writing, where I really like funny games, and there are very few legitimately funny games out there.
Have you played Doom?
Like, that's actually a good point. I would consider Doom a good comedy game. And now that I think about it, pretty much every game I think is legitimately funny is on my top 50. So get ready for that.
Sweet.
But yeah, it's like the way that this game makes its characters endearing, and it like the writing kind of gets lambasted sometimes because it sometimes is like almost cringy, but is cringy in a way that I kind of love, where like it's sort of over the top and like I know people like that is the thing. Like I know people who are that kind of cringy, and I love them. I love talking with them.
Yeah.
And like they're making just like stupid references and like geeking out over TV shows and stuff,
right.
And it feels relatable, not since like, whoa, they're gamers just like me, but relatable in the sense of like I know people like that. Like I've had those types of interactions with my friends.
Yeah,
and I mean, you can talk about all the weird narrative dissonance of the game of like hang out with my friends and then killing 20 people, but like at the end of the day that doesn't really matter to me. Like I just think it's fun. I think hacking is a really fun mechanic in this game. Just like I've definitely spent a fair bit of time just like walking around and fucking with random NPCs, like making cars hit each other and stuff. It's just fun. It's dumb. But yeah, it's I don't actually think I ever finished Watch Dogs 2, to be totally honest with you, but it's a game that I have a lot of attachment to. I think it was just too long and got sucked into something else. But and another thing I like is it talks a lot about like, you know, big tech and all those things, but without ever feeling overly cynical. Like it's almost like Black Mirror, but not edgy in a way, where it talks about really similar things of AI and, you know, tracking and all these things. But it has this sort of lighthearted, like sort of punk flair to it that I like, where it is talking about that, but it's also just about like standing up to them and like, you know, that you'll meet the big like Google stand-in CEO guy and you just mess with him, like you start like, you know, fucking with the speakers in his office and making him go crazy and stuff. And it's has less just like gloom and doom to it and more just, you know, you're fighting the man, you're doing your thing, you know, you're being a punk, being a rebel. And I like that. I think it's a fun game. I don't think it's mind-blowing by any means. I don't think it changes the face of video games. Like I said, it is at the end of the day, gameplay-wise, another generic GTA. But it's good. I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a game that I like quite a bit.
Yeah, it seemed to do a lot more and did a lot more better than Watch Dogs 1, which is the only one I played.
Oh, Jesus,
because
yeah.
I only played that
like
one.
Watch
I got
Dogs
burned
1.
by it, and I was like, I'm off this. Every time they showed Watch
Yeah.
Dogs since, I've just kind of written it off. But I did hear about how it did a lot better than the first one.
I want to mention Watch Dogs 1 real quick, because I didn't get burned by it. I played Watch Dogs 2 when it was like free on Games with Gold at some point. And I did not like Watch Dogs 1, because Watch Dogs 1 to me was a generic GTA with a mediocre hacking thing that they hadn't really fully fleshed out yet. And it was just gloom and doom. Like it was just kind of gray and boring to play, and Aiden was edgy and annoying. And like everything that I like about Watch Dogs 2 is not present in that game, and everything that I think is dumb about Watch Dogs 2 is. I don't like Watch Dogs 1, to say it. And I know a lot of people do, and I mean, no shade to you, but it's not for me. But, and I haven't even played Watch Dogs Legion. It's one of those things I've been meaning to, but something about it just, like, doesn't look that interesting to me. Like, it seems to have really strayed away from what I liked in Watch Dogs 2, which is those, like, very defined character interaction, people that you feel like you could meet in real life, in favor of kind of an interesting system with the NPCs, but it got rid of what I think I really enjoyed in 2, which is a little disappointing for me. But yeah, that's my number 47.
Nice. I was just happening to look up how much I've played Watch Dogs. I pulled it up, and it's 5.7 hours is how much I played of that before I was done with it. Last played
That's
November
awesome.
16th, 2014.
Wow.
But yeah, I just thought it would be funny to pull that up and see. All right, well, that's awesome. Watch Dogs 2, I'm now somewhat interested since it's on your top 50. But the next thing we'll talk about here, pretty much at the end of our show for today, our Game Club game for this week. Again, Game Club is just a segment we do on the show where we find a game we both haven't played before, and we will play it over the following week, talking about it on the next episode, and give our impressions on it, like we did today with Cyber Shadow. So this coming Game Club, or today's Game Club game, is going to be the Falconeer. So we'll be playing that. We'll be back next week with our impressions on that. You can find information or find our links in the description below. You can find out all kinds of stuff about us all over the place at Ziggy Hickson and at Nicolobe. Yeah, thanks for watching. We really appreciate everything you guys do for us. And if you do happen to play the Falconeer, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think of it. We'd love to hear your opinions. And if you have any suggestions for the show, please let us know too. With all that being said, Ziggy, do you have anything to say?
I don't think so, no. That's about it.
Okay, keep peeking that screen, everyone. Bye.
Peeking that screen. Bye.